The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
So if we hear dogs barking, Tyler's informed us. It's just the wild horses going by. So don't worry about that. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Bliss Business Podcast, where we explore how empathy, connection, and purpose transform business from the inside out. I'm Stephen, joined by my co-host, Tullio. And according to a recent study by the Harvard Business School, businesses with a strong sense of community and culture outperform competitors in retention, satisfaction, and long-term profitability. But how do we actually design companies that foster belonging rather than burnout? Today, we're diving into what it means to build meaningful connection in business and why true community might be the most strategic advantage of all. Tullio, introduce our guest today.
Yes, our guest today is Tyler Wynn. He's the president of Ledgers USA. And Tyler's not your typical accounting firm leader. He believes that connection is the currency of good business, and he's built a thriving organization that puts people first, whether it's his team, his clients, or his local community. Tyler, welcome to the show. So let's get started. Tell us about Ledgers USA and how community building has become a core principle in your leadership approach.
Okay. Well, just from a community aspect, are you talking about from like our company side or from like the consumer or client side? Which side do you want me to start at?
Both.
I say, yeah, both is fine. Because I think there is that internal community, right? That culture that's really important, but also, let's start with the external. Okay.
So we take a unique approach, and something I think is like a big issue in business right now. So as you probably are well aware, I think 75% of all small businesses fail within the first 10 years, and 46% of most small businesses don't use an accountant. So, and the number one reason most small businesses fail is from financial mismanagement. So it got me wondering, like, why? So maybe there's a big disconnect between accounting firms and small businesses. So what we do probably differently on the community level is we want to build our product, build our value for the customer. So it's all about what our customer needs, building a community with them, and our whole goal is to help them thrive. So that's where we build a community aspect from the consumer level, kind of giving them everything they need. It's not about us. It's about like being a servant, serving them. Like we're just here to help them achieve their dreams from the consumer side.
Tyler, what inspired you to lead with that sort of service mentality? Versus was it the numbers of just seeing that disconnect with businesses and accounting firms, or what inspired you as far as to take that kind of approach?
So, I mean, it's kind of a long, short story, but so back when I was a kid, my parents used to always argue about money. So, in my earliest childhood memories, I remember my parents were always arguing about money. And back in the 2008 housing crash, my family was in construction, so we were affected about that. So that kind of instilled me like, hey, I don't want to ever to be in that situation. I want to know my numbers. I want to know everything I can about accounting, business, etc. And once I started getting in before Ledgers as well, before Ledgers, I started trying to buy businesses, and I bought one business, but come to find out that business had no idea what their numbers were. They were playing the old debt with the new debt, and come to find out, a lot of small businesses don't know the numbers. So that leaves me. It's like, then why? So how can we, rather than me trying to acquire a bunch of companies, how can I actually help these people that from their family aspect? So how do I provide them value to help change their lives? So it kind of led me under almost like a rabbit hole of how do I provide value and help change a lot of these people's lives. And I actually met a guy named John Hewitt. Everyone probably knows who that is. He founded a company called Loyalty Brands, and he told me about Ledgers. And what Ledgers does is pretty much help a lot of these small businesses achieve their dreams. It kind of all came into path. But for me personally, it comes back from my history of I just really want to help small businesses and help them achieve their dreams, because I can envision from their side, from the kids level. So I know what their kids would feel like if they do fail. So kind of the backwards approach is, hey, I don't want anyone else to go through that. So I want to really help them on that side.
Yeah, I know that same thing with the recession. When my parents, this was one back in the 80s, they both came home on the same day, lost their jobs on both same day. As a kid, that stuff kind of sticks with you. The side of that stuck with me though was, my mom started 3 businesses in her house, and my dad went and he did whatever he could. He's got 4 kids, so he was painting, putting up wallpaper, all that stuff. But I think specifically that helped me as far as having that entrepreneurial spirit, just seeing that when we went through that recession. I was older. Tullio, you're about to say something.
I was just going to say, that is true empathy, because you're putting yourself literally in the state of being of someone having lived it yourself and trying to circumvent that same experience for someone else. That's incredible empathy. And I'd be curious. By the way, we had a guest last on Tuesday, and we asked him what his purpose was. He says, "I don't want to be poor." So that resonates too. It's good to not need to be poor. That's a good goal for sure. But what you're doing definitely embodies a significant context. One that sometimes is difficult to replicate with other people. How does your team? How does that experience translate into how your clients, how your team deals with their clients? Because you're in the franchise business, so how do you help everyone else embody that same context? This is a really powerful context.
What do you mean?
Your empathetic approach, how you're solving a problem for the end customer. How does your team experience that working with you? How do you help them replicate that?
I think even from who we hire on our team, from franchisees to our people we put around us, it all comes back to would you want to help people? And one of the things that I've realized in my own life, I find real joy out of helping people, not necessarily my own achievements, not being about me. The best moments in my life is when I help someone else. So that's kind of the approach that we have. And when we're building our team and our culture, we all have the same mission, is we really just want to help those small businesses succeed. And they all really want to help and serve others. And even what Loyalty Brands mission statement is having fun and improving lives. I think that is incredible, because I get so much fulfillment after improving people's lives.
So when you a franchise that wants to expand what you're doing, it's part of your process is making sure that they're aligned with the similar principle, their desire to be of service to others. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. So our whole purpose and mission is we want to help so our mission internally is we want to help reduce the number of small business failures, and we're going to do it in 5 years. From our goal is to bring it from 75 to less than half, and we're going to do it in 5 years.
Nice.
Because one of the main big things I've learned about companies, about people, is you got to make your mission statement bigger than yourself. And I don't want it to be hey, I want to get 500 units. I want to do this. I was how do we make it where it's such an incredible impact? How do we change a lot of lives? And if I can reduce the number of small business failures from to less than half, over half the U.S. workforce is employed by small businesses. So that's over half the U.S. Workforce. And how many of them have children that could be like me if, let's say, they failed? So we could have such incredible impact by almost having that mission-driven approach to really helping and serving those people. So we have that how to help others mentality.
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the moments in your business. Was there a moment when you realized prioritizing connection, that service mentality, where you saw the instant sort of the growth it created for your company, like the instant business value of that. Can you think something come to mind there?
I think it goes backward, or like from the consumer level, like we have to serve our clients, but also even from me, from on the corporate side, we have to serve our franchisees. Like they're our clients. How do we help them succeed? Care, and we genuinely care about them and their success, as well as me and my employees. Like I really want them to succeed. How do I help them achieve their dreams? And that's kind of how we do it from the back forward.
So that's a powerful statement. How do you help them? Is there a way you approach even coaching some of these other team members, or just helping them step into looking at everything from a relational point of view instead of transactional? Because you mentioned earlier, it's not about just the transaction. It's not about reaching these specific measurable metrics. It's more about impact. So how do you coach your team to have that on their forefront all the time in everything that they do? Is there something that works for you on how you do that?
So I believe talk is cheap and action means everything. So I would say that we try to lead by example. So for me, I'm not going to tell my team to do these values, to do this, if I'm not setting an example, like setting the standard from the top. So that's kind of how we do it. Set that example, show them, almost more or less show them rather than tell them.
Nice.
Our company, one of the things that we do is we do have kind of these rituals and systems that we've built in so that they kind of prompt us to, have that sort of empathetic connection, on a weekly basis. Have you built, in the franchise side of things, you're often about systems and you've got to replicate these systems. Have you built any systems or rituals or practices at Ledgers that help reinforce things like connection or empathy on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? Anything come to mind there?
Not necessarily where we made it systematic. Even within like loyalty brands, we meet every Friday afternoon at the end of the work week, almost to get together, get to know each other, share wins together, almost like foster that teamwork within all of us. So that was kind of like even beyond Ledgers, more into loyalty brands, is like fostering that teamwork and hey, we're all part of this mission. We're all here to help each other succeed.
Well, a lot of small business struggle with this. I mean, they struggle maintaining a culture, especially as they grow. It's a lot easier when you're small and it's more contained, but then you grow and it scales. It becomes harder. Not impossible, but it's definitely harder. But so how do you stay? You mentioned about setting the example, but is there something you do that helps you stay intentional with the culture as it scales? Anything you're adapting as you sort of learn along the way that say, hey, you know what? I did this works really well. I need to do more of this. Because there's leaders who might be listening like, how do you do that? Give me the formula, right? So we've learned about setting the example. Anything else that, one or two things that you're making a practice that you feel has worked very well, or that you've discovered that's working very well to maintain that culture of care and empathy?
Yeah, I think it's just, for us, it just comes back to like hiring the right people. And so we hire really slow. And one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves is it's more on attitude. It's like, if you want to grow, you want to succeed, that's more valuable than like maybe your resume. So we value more on values rather than like your sheet of accomplishments. So having everyone that kind of believes in what we believe, we're all aligned in that mission. And we are very slow on that process of who we bring on our team.
Yeah, I think that's important too when you're talking about your, having that mission front and center, that bigger goal you've got, right, of helping small businesses to find, when you're going to that hiring process, finding people that really resonates with those values. Is that when you're doing that hire slow process, how are you specifically looking for those values? Is that what you're looking for? Is that kind of mentality, that kind of passion?
Yeah, and so when I hire people, I usually ask I actually got this from Elon Musk. He said when he hires people, he gets them to tell them their story and then like some something that they helped overcome. So you learn about them. That's who, like, when I'm interviewing someone, I really want to learn about them. I'm curious to see what what they can do, how they think, how they interact. Like, are they more selfless when it comes to the mission rather than just always being about me? We want them to buy into the mission, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely think, like, in our hiring process, we go through, we want to make sure they're technically proficient in these different areas of marketing. And, once we get that all covered, now it's more just the rest of the interview is just really about who this person is, what their passions are, what their core beliefs are, and getting into that part, seeing whether we connect.
I'm curious about something. I'm curious if there's any interesting story that have come out of those conversations. Anything that stood out for you?
That'd be between them and me.
Ah, okay. You're not sharing the secret sauce with us, huh?
Well, yeah, it's a personnel thing.
Well, it's usually like their story, and I mean, you always hear, like, I love, especially even just doing podcasts, you hear about people's story, like why they do things, what makes them click, what are they what are they passionate about? Do they find joy in helping people like I do? And just figuring out that's usually the baseline.
It's amazing when you ask people those questions, you learn so much, and people surprise you. Like, I've heard stories of one person who saw an accident happening in front of them on the highway. The car flipped over. They got out of the car, stopped the entire highway, went to that person's aid, and did this so quickly without even thinking, putting themselves in harm's way. And it was just such an inspiring story of someone that is very mild-tempered, meek. Like, you would never think the kind of courage would come out of this individual. But it's amazing how people rise to the occasion in situations like that. And it really inspired me. And I asked myself, would I do the same thing? It's really amazing how people are willing to go out of their way to be of service to others, especially when it matters the most.
So one of the things I think someone, one of the people I interviewed said this one time. They said whenever they're having a bad day, they go out and try to do something for someone else, and that instantly, just that act of service, making someone else's day better, made their day so much better. So I actually challenge any of the listeners, and I do even do it myself, is like, if you're having a bad day, everything's going wrong in your business, so hey, how do I add value to someone else? How do I make someone else's day better? And use that in return to make your day better.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
We've got a question from a listener. Let's cue
Great
that up.
question.
How do you personally recharge when you're feeling disconnected or overwhelmed?
That's a very valid question. A lot of empathetic people often get tired because they're giving so much. And so I'm personally curious, like, how do you recharge? Because sometimes
personally, personally, mine is the gym. So I usually go to the gym every day just to recharge my brain and to start as new. That's usually how I do it. I try to start my morning off right. And I actually talked to me and Carney from CR3. We were talking about this. It's, if you can just getting yourself uncomfortable just a little bit at the beginning of the day really helps get your day going, because you already did something hard. You went to the gym. He does cold plunging. You cold plunge. Just doing something hard at the beginning of the day really shows you in your mind that, hey, I already did something hard. The rest of the day is going to be easy.
Nice.
That's kind of how we do it.
I like that. I'm gonna have to try that sometime. I feel like, getting yourself uncomfortable early on in the day, and then the rest of your day will be easy. I love that. A question, thinking about culture and success in culture. How do you even measure that? Is it, you could say, we've got, high retention. What ways would you measure, like, success in your culture? Anything come to mind?
I guess it depends on what the person defines as success. So for me,
how do you measure it? Is it how many families one of the franchise helps, or keeps those businesses in check? I'm be curious, right? Everybody's got some way to measure their success, whether it's productivity or something more tangible in terms of connection impact.
Yeah. So, I mean, our goal, like John always talks about, when I say John, I'm talking about John Hewitt, is talks about hairy, audacious goals. Like, even for us, like he said, how do we create a goal so bigger than ourselves? And that's what we did from the small business failures, us reducing that. So, and it's not necessarily even the goal, is we want to fall in love with the process. Like, fall in the process of the daily helping people, that almost that grind, fall in love with that. And then the result, the success is just part of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess that brings us to, we always ask this question about the role purpose plays in the success of a business. And you've mentioned in a number of ways being very purposeful, having a mission to help those kids and those families so that they never have to experience, what happens when someone's business fails because they didn't have financial literacy, for example. So you've talked a great deal, and even in hiring the right people that have that service mentality. It's very purposeful. Everything you do is very purposeful. And in fact, studies show that companies with strong social bonds, because that's what we're hearing from you, and share purpose, are actually 40% more likely to retain talent. Because, hiring the right person and maintaining them and keeping them engaged, it's a different thing. Is there something deeper, more so that you believe in terms of having a strong purpose that can guide your franchise owners, for example, at Ledgers USA, and how they show up day to day? You mentioned some of it. Is there some credo you're thinking of developing that you want people to adapt? You mentioned some of the things John Hewitt has shared. We had him as a guest. Love speaking with him. Anything that you're doing to codify that purpose, or you're thinking about doing, that you think would be important?
So do you mean from, like, rather than just the mission, what daily habits, daily procedures are we putting in place?
Anything that you're feeling like, what, I should have these 5 tasks or goals that people should strive towards that can help them stay on track. As you're developing this, what's coming up potentially that could become like a purposeful way for your team to stay on point with this beautiful culture you're creating?
That's a good question.
I know it is. It's part of the journey thing. It's like, hey, if you've got this higher purpose, I think, in mind, you don't know exactly the many different ways you're going to achieve that on a daily basis. But when you keep asking yourself that question about your business, you keep auditing your business toward that higher purpose. I think that's how you come up with some of these many different kind of ways that all keep you aligned with that purpose, and these little tiny tasks, the things it's like 100 different tiny things you do in your business that are all aligned with purpose just become this huge kind of powerful force in reaching that purpose.
And Tyler, it's not an easy thing to do. Most businesses actually have a journey.
That's the journey, right?
It's a journey. It's actually one of the things we very intentionally created a whole module in our AI CMO product, which is called the Purpose Builder, specifically to help businesses go through this process, because doing things because it's your nature and then codifying them in a way that becomes purposeful is very complex work. A lot of companies don't think about it. They don't do it because it's not a very easy thing to do. So having some, either you're going to hire a branding agency to do it, then it doesn't always look natural. Or you think, well, how is AI going to do that? But we actually took the time to be able to ask those questions. So we're just curious, like, is that something you're thinking about next in this journey? Because you have such a beautiful context. And I'd be curious about, if you had to develop a credo, like what's 1 or 2 things you're like are non-negotiable? These are things that the people in the organization should do day in and day out.
Sorry, you broke up. Can you say that? Can you say that again real quick?
I was going to, if you had to develop a credo of 1 or 2 things that become like sort of non-negotiable, right? These are things that the team should focus on day in and day out. What's kind of surfacing for you as you're going through this journey?
I think can you hear us now? A little technical.
Yeah, my microphone kind of went out, so I had to.
All right, yeah, so plug. Go for it one more time,
Let's see if I can say it with the same excitement. Take 3. So no, I was just curious, as you're going through this journey, this is a beautiful journey you're on. Is there a credo that's bubbling up? Maybe like 1 or 2 things you're like, you know what, these are the non-negotiable. I really think people should practice day in and day out. And I'm going to make sure I remind people of it. Is there something bubbling up like that for you as you're going through this journey that could eventually become sort of a belief or credo that becomes the code of your business or the culture of your business, so to speak? I'm curious, what's like one of those 2 things that you're feeling people should do day in and day out?
As in, like actual tasks, like, hey, you do these 2 things every day. No, we don't specifically have something like where you say, hey, let's do this today in order to do that. No, we don't. So, just for references, what is something that y'all would do inside that you think is valuable for setting
Great
standard?
Great question.
Like that.
We did not set Tyler up for this question, by the way, folks. We did not. Go ahead, Steve.
No, that is really like our credo. It's that bliss. It's like build love into scalable systems. And so we're continually thinking about all those little tasks, all that minutia of the daily work, and all those 1,000 little things that we do. But if we're continually asking that question, hey, how can we build some love, some compassion, some empathy into this particular area of our business? And it could be the most, random thing out there, that you can even think of. Is like, oh, if we just did this for clients instead, or showed up this way, or made sure we asked them this particular question early on in their onboarding with us, it can make a huge difference. So that's what we just kind of always say is with, bliss and building love. It's like, it's just like, it's always what's next. It's always the thing that we're thinking about next. And little by little, we keep adding to it. And I always say little by little, little makes a lot when you do that. If you've added all this compassion, empathy into what you're doing over time, and now your customers are feeling that, right? You're feeling it in 100 different ways you couldn't even have thought about when you started that journey. And I think that's kind of like our credo, and it's like something that I think too anyone could do with whatever work they're doing. There's always some way that they can systemize something they're doing, so it's not a random act of kindness. It's not a random act of compassion. It's more of like, hey, this is part of our process. This is something we do every day. And I think when you do that, that's really, in a way, you've left kind of a mark. You've left a little bit of a legacy. You could step away from the whatever you've just been working on, and now you've kind of left an impression there that can go on without you. Tyler, when you think about leadership legacy and what you hope to leave behind, not just as a business owner, but as someone shaping, the way others work, how they live, what comes to mind for you as far as legacy?
So on your last question, ours is having fun and improving lives. So that's something we always did. And then from our customers' perspective, it's like, how do we add value to them? And from a legacy perspective, all I want to do for the rest of my life is, how do I help make business ownership easier, and how do I help them win? Because if you're just starting out in a business, because I help a lot of even mom and pops just getting started, figuring out what to do in their business, from like incorporations, business plans, but kind of helping someone who has no idea, they have a dream, they want to take advantage of it, make it easier and more efficient way, and giving them the opportunities to succeed is pretty much all I want to do for the rest of my life. Is how do I make it easier for them to give them all the tools, all the resources, everything they need in order to achieve their dream. My dream is to help other people to achieve their dream.
Is there, I'm thinking about it, is there like 1 or 2 common things that you see, kind of mistakes or things that businesses haven't addressed, that you guys see quite often when you're trying to help businesses when you first come in?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is, most of the time they don't even know what their margins are. Like for instance, like if you're just starting a business, they think their margins are X, but it is not even close. Like they are actually losing money. Like even one of my friends' businesses I helped him with, he was actually his credit card and his cash balance. He was just playing the debt game. He wasn't making any money. So by just knowing his numbers, he's like 3x his revenue by just simply knowing what his numbers are. And that's what our like a whole mission is, just giving people like the entrepreneur the resources to succeed, because they are like, they know their business, they just aren't experts in finance, and that's where we come in, is to really help give them, to be that guide for them to achieve their dreams. And that's what we're about.
They're just looking at like the cash flow or the bank account, and that's about it, right? Is you're saying it's not like the actual.
Exactly.
That's how you get that debt issue in there. It's just like, well, I've got money today, kind of
Yeah,
scenario.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you either manage money to stay afloat, or you manage to have it to help you grow. It's two different mindset, right? One requires a lot more savvy and intentionality.
Yeah.
So how do you stay grounded yourself? I mean, this is such a big context, and what helps you stay grounded with it? Anything we heard about the gym, that helps you kind of. Is there something that you personally, beyond that you practice or you believe in, that helps you stay grounded in these principles?
So grounded in principles is like not being egotistic or not getting in my own head kind of thing, or more like a daily habits?
Whatever helps you kind of stay on track, because there's always the temptation of taking the shortcut that exists all the time, right? So but you stay grounded in this credo of like, I'm going to help people, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to help my organization be one that's empathetic, that cares about the impact we're having on lives, not just the numbers. So how do you stay grounded on that when the temptation comes? It's like, oh, I got this opportunity, because it happens, right? Just curious, like what helps you kind of stay on the straight and narrow, so to speak, around this?
I would say God, probably, because even when Jesus came down to earth, like his whole goal was, he pretty much just served others. And I think he was trying to show us what happiness is. It's just serving and helping others. And I get so much joy of helping this small business achieve their dream than I ever did myself. And I learned that firsthand. So I actually helped one of my friends get his business back afloat. Actually was in there firsthand. And I had so much joy seeing him achieve his dream than I ever did trying to be a multi-unit real estate investor, etc. So I get more joy out of helping people than I do myself. Because me, it's just transactional, but for them, it's everything.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
it is written, there is more joy in giving than receiving. So that's what I'm.
Yeah, I mean, we felt that too with the evolution in our agency early on. Like we were just doing our own kind of stuff, our own websites, that kind of thing. And then when that recession came along, that same recession, you're talking about, my neighbor came to me and he was like, hey, my business is in trouble. Can you help us with that? And so there's the whole story goes around that. But yeah, we ended up helping him a lot, and ended up turning his business around and saving his. And for me, that was just like, that was job satisfaction more so than being, very successful in our own stuff. But now in service to someone else, that was the real job satisfaction. That's like, hey, let's do more of that. We can do that all day, every day. And, going back to what you said, when we were talking about your faith, that kind of transitions into this question that we ask just about every guest that comes here is, what role does love play in business?
I think it plays a lot, actually. And I would say like kind of the crucible of our biggest impact in my life is, so I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never really thought about it before. I actually wanted to go in the military, and I actually got hurt playing football. That ended my whole dream. So I had to like remake myself, figure out what I wanted, because I was being selfish my entire life. But once that moment hit, my dream was gone. But I got new, almost repurposed from helping other people achieve their dreams. So that was where I like basically rebuilt myself and found out true joy is just helping people.
Sounds like you had a bigger calling, Tyler.
I guess so.
It's beautiful.
But I challenge anyone who's listening, if you think, okay, he's just selling, go out there and just try it. And try it, make someone's day, make someone's business better by adding value, and see it how that makes you feel.
Oh, we agree. We've had a number of guests, especially coaches, and I've seen this firsthand when people struggle with empathy or connecting with being in someone else's shoes. The first thing coaches will encourage them to do is volunteer to go do something for someone else, because you'll step into that in pretty quickly. So 100% believe that. And if you're listening and you don't believe that, go try it. Go try it, make it experiential. Well, Tyler, it's been great to have you on the show. How can people reach you and learn about you and your company, or if they want to be part of this movement that you're creating and be invest in own franchise? How do they reach you?
You can find us on ledgersusa.com. You can find everything about us.
Excellent.
And we're on Ledgers USA on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can add me on LinkedIn as well. And I always just like hearing from business owners. So if you have no interest in accounting, maybe have a dream of starting a business, please reach out. Just have a conversation. What's the worst that could happen?
Nice.
Thank you, Tyler. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in today. If today's episode sparked new ideas about building community and connection in your business, share it with someone else who leads with heart and purpose like Tyler. We'll see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.